I'm so excited that we're all here, and this is one of our projects, and I'm really excited that we're bringing it to you today. I'm also really excited that I was able to wear some clothes other than casual, so and put my makeup on. So I'm excited about that too. So I just wanted to say thank you. Young people's relationships with social workers. And what we're going to do in this session really is I'm going to give you a little brief introduction to who we are here at What Works for Children's Social Care. Then we're then going to talk about the project that led to these films being made, which is Happier, Healthier Professionals. And Shabelle is going to talk to us about that. We'll then show you the film. And then after we've shown you the film, we'll be chatting to some of the people that were involved. So a couple of young people that were actually on the films are here to talk about the experience. We've got Kieran, who did the films. He's also going to talk about how he found it. After we've done that, we're going to have a chat about our future plans. And towards the end, we've got plenty of time for questions, if any of you've got questions. Another thing I'd like to ask you to do before we start is, I hope you're all sitting comfortably. I hope you've had a bit of lunch and you have a drink so you can sit back and relax. And there is a tiny bit of audience participation, so I need you to have your phones close by to your hands. So that's all I'm going to say. So yes, I will carry on. So before we start, let's do some introductions. And if I can start with Kieran, and then we can move on to the rest of the people.
So hello everyone, my name is Kieran. I am a university student at Plymouth University, but also, as Bev just mentioned, I am the videographer for this project as well.
Thank you, Kieran. And Leon?
Hi, I'm Leon. I've done a degree in dance, contemporary dance, and I've done teaching qualification, and I dance. I've performed a few places across the country and teach, like in communities and through schools.
Fantastic, thank you. And Shabelle?
Hi everyone, my name is Shabelle O'Flaherty. I am a researcher at What Works for Children's Social Care, and I'm co-leading on the Happier, Healthier Professionals research program, and really excited to be here with everyone today.
Brilliant, thank you. So, and I'm Bev Curtis. I forgot about myself. So I'm Bev Curtis. I am a social worker. So I'm going to do a disclaimer now. If technology goes wrong, I have no idea how to fix it. Technology is not my skill set. And I am one of the practice development managers at What Works for Children's Social Care. And I sit in the practice team within the organisation. And in total, there's 5 social workers that work alongside researchers, programs team, admin and operations. So there's a few of us that work in the organisation. We're quite big now, and 40 of us. So we're an independent charity. And our aim really, we sit as a What Works. We're in a group of What Works organisations. So we're not the only one, although we're one of the youngest. So we've been going only just a year. But there's a What Works for the police. There's a What Works for health. You might have heard of them. They're called NICE. We've got What Works for homelessness. So there's an umbrella term, and they're all What Works, and we all focus on our particular areas. And ours is children's social care. And what we're dedicated to doing is actually looking for evidence that is going to be useful for us practitioners that are doing the job, but also will have a positive impact on those children and families and young people that we work with. And we want it to be useful, we want it to be practical, and obviously we need it to be timely. So we're trying to improve the evidence for obviously better outcomes. So what do? We pull together what we already know. We do a lot of systematic reviews, looking at what research is out there in a particular area. We draw that together. We look to see if there's any gaps. whether we can do some research in that area. So that's one thing we do. We support the good work that's already going on out there. So that can be working with local authorities alongside them if they've got evidence of a promising intervention and they want to check it out, and we help them to evaluate whether that intervention works. We commission new research where there are gaps. And we also speak to practitioners and young people and families. And finally, we try and improve the accessibility to the evidence. So we have on our website an evidence store, which we are always growing, and we're always looking to add more evidence and research onto it. And we grade it to say, this is what we found, this is how useful it is. So that's on that, on the What Works for Children's Social Care website, just in case you wanted to Google it. So why do we do it? We do it to deliver better outcomes. That's the main purpose of our organisation. We need to do that by looking to see what effective practice looks like, what's out there that we can do to improve the evidence and give it accessibility for everyone. As part of that, as I said earlier, we have various ways of engaging with the sector, and actually that's my role within What Works. So we reach out to young people. We have a panel that meet regularly, and we ask them about our research. We either ask them about, look at the results of our research, what do you think, or we're thinking of doing this research, you know, what's your input on that? And we try and ensure the voice of the young person is also heard when we produce reports. And then sometimes there's a broader engagement. If we have a specific area that we're looking at, we will reach out to young people who may have experienced that, or families. So we will go out there and look for people that can feed into the research, and the research we're about to do, or the research we've done. We also have a stakeholder group made up of social workers, experts by experience, social work practice leaders, social care, charity sector, and academia. And we meet 4 times a year, and again, it's something that I oversee. Now, I said earlier about having your phones on you. One of my jobs, and it's a very important job, and it is to do polling surveys. So every 2 weeks, it says on there, I send out questions to social workers that are registered, asking them a variety of different questions. I ask them about current issues. I ask them about some of the research we're thinking of doing. I ask about practice experience, and obviously in the final year, the past year, not the final year, in the past year, I've asked about COVID. So if you've got your phone out at the moment and you Google What Works for Children's Social Care, and along the top you'll see a practice button. On there is an option to click on polling, and you can register. All you need is your name and address, your email address, and your registration number, your social work registration number. And it would be great to see all of you signed up, because the more people I have signed up to polling, the louder our voice is. And the results from polling are shared in a variety of different ways, including sharing with policymakers when it's a relevant area for them to know something about what our social workers are saying. So sign up. I really would advise that you sign up. So that's the social work polling. I'm now going to hand over to Shabelle. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let Shabelle talk to you about the Happier, Healthier Professionals project that we've got.
Great. Thanks so much, Bev. And so I'm just going to try to share here. Bev, can I just check that you can see this okay?
Yep.
Brilliant. Great. So yeah, as Bev has mentioned, I'm going to introduce our research strand on happier, healthier professionals. So this is a research program that we started over 2 years ago now, actually, at the centre. And the focus of this research overall is to improve the well-being of social workers across England. So across the workforce, there are high rates of turnover and sickness absence rates. And so we have a number of projects that have been completed around how to improve the well-being of social workers, which actually will have results of that being shared next week in a report. I'll be talking a little bit more about that later. But we also have a number of other projects that are currently in the works, including the project that we're presenting to you today on care leaver videos. And broadly, all of these projects are around understanding ways to support social workers and how to improve their happiness and productivity. So we're drawing on a number of fields to kind of design these projects, so including behavioral science and social psychology. And our main kind of main focus is to improve outcomes, including well-being of individual social workers, their motivation, with the idea that then if social workers feel happier and more motivated in the workplace, that this would have also a positive impact on turnover and sickness absence rates. And we're conducting this research in collaboration with folks at King's, University of East Anglia, and the Harvard Business School. We also work very closely with our practice team, including Bev, who sits in our team. We meet weekly. So we also conducted a very kind of wide-scale consultation with local authorities across England at the very beginning of this research program to inform what we were doing and to kind of feed in on what should our key areas and what should our key priorities be.
My position.
Oh,
yeah, that's exactly it. But I can be generic so that, you know, everyone's entitled.
Hello, can I just remind people to pop themselves onto mute, please? Thank you.
Great. Sorry, I was just getting a bit of feedback there. Okay, so the project that we're going to present to you today, we're calling it Symbolic Awards. And the key question we wanted to kind of focus on with this piece of research is how can we increase social workers' sense that their work has a positive impact on the children and families that they work with. So one of the key issues that came up as part of our consulting with social workers and managers and leaders across local authorities was that there was no existing mechanism or way for social workers to get reliable feedback on the important work that they're doing. And social workers typically enter the workforce to help others, specifically children and families, and to have a positive impact on others through their work. So in the research, basically what we wanted to draw on is this idea that when employees feel that their work has a positive impact on others, that's a key motivator and a key driver of their sense that they feel that they're able to actually not only do their work confidently, but also feel motivated at work. So some research suggests that their sense that their work has a positive impact on others is a basic human motivator. And when they feel that their individual efforts at work are valued and recognized by others, so that could be by senior leadership, but it could also be by the people that they work with directly, their colleagues, the beneficiaries of their work, they are more motivated to contribute to their overall work. So with this project in particular, we're drawing on this idea of beneficiary contact. So a beneficiary would be anybody who receives the direct benefits of the services provided by social workers. So that could include colleagues, but it would mainly include children and families, as well as care leavers. And some research suggests that when employees feel more connected to their beneficiaries, they do perceive that their work has a higher positive impact on others. And when employees feel that their work does have a positive impact on others, that has a very positive impact on their sense of intrinsic motivation, their performance, and their productivity. So we set out to design this intervention around how can we make social workers feel more connected to the beneficiaries of their work. So we essentially, when we first set out to do this piece of work, we had actually already designed and implemented a trial around messages of gratitude coming from senior leadership at local authorities. That trial, which we ran, I guess, not last year, but the year before, the findings of that trial will be included in the report that's being released next week. But we did find a positive impact of those messages of gratitude going to social workers coming from senior individuals in their local authorities. So we had already found that these kind of messages of recognition and gratitude did have the potential to have a positive impact on social workers' well-being. And so we wanted to branch out and think about, okay, how can we, these messages have a positive impact if they came from beneficiaries, so including children and families. So the intervention we designed is we collected, and we're still collecting, video messages from care leavers at the local authority, in which they reflect on their positive experiences that they've had with one of the social workers at the local authority. And the mechanisms, I guess the psychological mechanisms that we're trying to influence through these messages of recognition include burnout, motivation, and perceived social worth. And perceived social worth is just the sense, a person's sense that their work is valued and recognized by others. So the intervention design, so we're actually working with 8 local authorities on this research across England at the moment. The trial will be going live later next month. And we've collected 3 messages from 3 care leavers at each local authority. Given the current context, we have had to conduct the interviews via Zoom, which has meant that we haven't had to travel across the country to collect these. So Kieran, our videographer, who's also on the call today, will talk a bit about his role in he's been leading on recording those video interviews. And so during those interviews, we asked care leavers to describe their positive experiences with a social worker at the local authority. And then in order for us on the research team to determine whether the videos have had a positive impact on well-being, we randomly send the videos to just half of social workers at the local authority in the first instance. And then after we conduct final data collection, we send the other half of social workers the video. So as I've said, we're actually just getting ready to launch this intervention next month. So we don't have results to share just yet, but next, I think Bev is going to actually play a clip, including videos from some of the care leavers that we've conducted interviews with, including, I think, a video clip with Leon, who's on the call today. And I'm just going to stop sharing my screen here.
So yes, I'm going to show you the film. I'd just like to do another shout out if Charlotte is on this call, that to make herself known somehow by just unmuting and going, I'm here. But I'm now going to show this. I'll share my screen and just show the film. So this is made up from films from different local authorities. So we've picked out some bits and we've created this film just to give you an example of what kind of messages care leavers were sharing with their social workers. So over to the stars of the show, really. And it's a shame Charlotte, who you would have just seen on that film, is due to be here as well, and we seem to have lost her somewhere in the ether, which is a shame. But what I'd like to do now is just a couple of questions with Kieran and Leon, who are here, and starting with you, Kieran. I wondered if you could just tell us and tell everyone else about what were the challenges of doing this project for you.
I think one of the challenges that was basically happening in the project for me was basically like, I think because we were like filming during COVID and everything was done online, I think that was like the biggest project. Oh, no, I can't really speak. Sorry, the biggest issue that we had when filming, because like if we were doing it outside of COVID, then we would have to like Shabil said, like travel to different locations, take equipment with us, and all of that. But because we were in COVID, we had to do everything online, so we were like more reliable on people's like internet to make sure that it was all like clear, to make sure that it was all connected properly. Like people like kept going in and out of like signal with the Wi-Fi. It was a bit like hard when doing it that way, but overall, I do think that the project worked very well considering.
Yeah, and it was very good. Yes, it does bring back memories of some issues around internet and just making sure people were able to just have the time to do the film as well, especially when they were living in homes where they shared accommodation. And what were the successes for you? What did you enjoy about doing it? Well, we still continue with the project, but what are you enjoying about the project?
I think one of the successes that I feel like is good about the project is the fact that even though we are doing it via Zoom, I feel that this is the best way that we can do it, because the care leavers that we're interviewing are able to like open up more efficiently compared if we were doing it in like say face to face in like an office, because via Zoom they're in like their own personal like I don't know what the word is, personal space. So
Yeah.
they feel more open and they feel more relaxed. So they can express more openly about anything that we ask, really.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Yeah, and it was lovely, really lovely. Thank you, Kim. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
Not that comes to mind, no.
Okay, no worries. And then Leon, if I can come to you, it's all on you, no pressure. So can I just ask, why did you get involved? I mean, when you heard about it, what made you say, yeah, I'll do that?
I've done a few things that are similar before the past few years before COVID. I did an interview at where I live for a magazine. I was recorded teaching a dance, so in my natural habitat and kind of the fruits of the labour of both me and my social worker, and then a quick interview with me. And this kind of carried it on. I've also been on BBC Three, I think, talking about it on radio. But so this carried it on, and I admit there's nothing I could really do to actually thank my social workers. So this is probably the best next thing I could do. And I've also really enjoyed it, to be honest. It's been a new experience.
Well, that you've second guessed my next question was how did you find the experience being filmed and asked questions around your positive experiences?
I've enjoyed it. I have enjoyed it. It's been nice to kind of like go back and really think through of everything that's gone. I do admit, me being like between 17 and 19, going through sixth form and uni, I was, your stereotypical teen with stresses of education. I was quite stressed there, and then it's like, oh, why are they always on my back? Why didn't doing that? Why doing this? Well, like what Kaiser said in the video. Now you look back at it, you're like, well, they were constantly on me because they knew I could do it. They just knew I also needed the help. So it's been a revelation. But then there's the whole thing of I really don't like watching myself back or listening to myself. So it's not quite the same, but the positives, it's just amazing.
Yeah, that's really good to hear. And can you tell me, I mean, you've just touched on it really, but you were saying about, can you tell me about the impact of having that positive experience? You talked about the fact that it was nice to think back and remember some of those. And you've talked a bit about uni, and obviously we see that in the film. Is there anything else you want to add about the positive impact it had on you?
Yeah, they were, especially when I got a little bit older and became more adult. Like they never spoke down to me. they explained things, they treated me like an equal, made me feel valued, made my opinion feel valued in any of the issues that I came across. So at times, well, quite a lot of the time, they came across as friends as well. Like, there weren't people there who were just there for my benefit. They were there because they cared, they helped, and they were a laugh. We'd go out, we'd go somewhere for food, to talk about things, have a laugh. It was funny, you know, just relaxing a little bit and just talk about things. For a good 7 years, I went to a dance camp every summer for 2 weeks. It was amazing. Like, it really pushed me out of my comfort zone because it was really hard. People from all over the world came, both students and teachers. And my social worker pushed for that, to get me there every year. And that has been amazing because dance is my passion. And the fact that he went so far out of his way to get it done for me, it means a lot. Like, it showed the dedication. But as I said, with uni, like, the third year was, it was eating me the third year. So the fact that neither of them, like my social worker and educational like supervisor, I think it was, neither of them gave up. They were stubborn, very stubborn. And they just kept on pushing me for it. They were like, nope, we'll work our way around, even if it means you're a little bit late and you've got to just hand it in a bit later. We're doing it. You've put too much work into this. We're not letting you out of it. We will help you get it. And it's just that level of dedication that really motivated me to, you know, prove them right. And since they both turned up to my graduation, it was
Hey.
it was kind of like a team celebration because it wasn't just my hard work, especially in the last year. It was the sheer dedication and stubbornness of those guys pushing me. So it was a good day, the celebration and the graduation.
Yeah, fantastic. And then just finally, so we've got, obviously, I would imagine quite a few social workers watching this at the moment, Leon. So have you got any kind of advice, or is there anything you want to say about what you think are qualities that make a good social worker?
Well, I mean, social worker, it's the whole thing of, you're caring for, like, and like the research in the video said, you're caring for families and young children to teenagers. And I say this in the most polite way possible. Obviously, these children and teenagers have come from somewhat unstable, backgrounds or environments. There's been obviously something there, and I can speak from experience. There's something there that just isn't right for that child or that family. So there's going to be problems. There might be traumas. There's going to be just little things that might trigger the children. So the patience and that sheer dedication to helping and the sensitivity, and I, to be poetic, the good heart, the golden heart, to be out there, to put yourself through stress, maybe into difficult situations, dangerous situations, or really run yourself down, to put your body and mind on the line for a child that you might not, know personally to start with, but then to truly work out your way to turn this child's life around, like mine was. It's the sensitivity, the dedication, the stubbornness as well. Sometimes you just got to put your foot down. But yeah, it's just the hard work. I know, obviously, social workers do it anyway, but I mean, it's just the whole thing, the sensitivity, the golden heart, the hard work, just wanting to help. Just that simple thing of, I want to help one person today, every day. That will make a difference, no matter how small you think it will. That will change that child's life around. And as I said, all the people in those videos and many more are perfect representations of that.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Leon. That's really thoughtful words. So I'm going to hand back to Shabelle now, and she's going to talk to you about what we have planned for the future with happier, healthier professionals. I think I can stop sharing my screen because you don't need a slide for that. So I shall stop sharing it for a moment.
Great. Yeah. And I just wanted to add on to that, just to say how much of a privilege it's been just even be involved in the interviews and to hear care leavers speak about their social workers in this way. It's just been, and it's been, we have worked with care leaver councils at the 8 local authorities who we're working with on this project to get in touch with care leavers. And it's been really nice to see the response that we've had from care leavers. They've been really keen and willing to get involved. So care leavers like Leon have said, yes, no problem. And they're willing to give up their time to be involved in an interview, which, you know, might seem a bit weird, like getting involved in a research project with this random research center. But it's been so nice to see the response and to be involved in those interviews and to hear what young people have to say about their social workers. So yeah, in terms of our future plans for this piece of work, as I've mentioned, we're getting ready to launch the project hopefully next month. Kieran has done a terrific job of coordinating, recording all the interviews across the 8 local authorities, and we'll have findings for this project to share publicly later this year. So we do hope that we do find positive results. At the moment, we're also working on a number of other projects around social worker well-being. So one of those projects is around social support messaging for newly qualified social workers. We have another project, a pilot study around flexi time and flexible working for social workers. So particularly now, given the context of being in the middle of a pandemic and working from home, does flexible working improve employee well-being? And then we have another pilot study that we've actually completed already on a time-saving tool for social workers. So specifically a dictation software tool that would aim to try to reduce administrative burden. So at the moment, we're basically deep in the throes of kind of launching these projects, or some of them are already completed. We're also, as I mentioned, we're getting ready to launch the results, so the findings from our first phase of this research. Oh, I think we have someone. All right, on mute. Okay, great. So we are getting ready to launch a report that details our findings from the first phase of this research. And that includes details of the project that I spoke about earlier around letters of recognition going to social workers coming from senior people in the local authority. That report will be shared publicly on our website. And we have a webinar taking place next Thursday, which I would love for everybody to come to. So I think we have over 120 people on the call today. I'll share a link in the chat here for everybody to register. So if you are interested in social worker well-being and our other research around this topic, please do join that session. We'll be talking about our findings and in more detail. And also just to flag, I think Bev, you're going to plug this as well, but please do, in general, if you're interested, just sign up to our newsletter on the website as well.
So there in the middle is the most important one, as I mentioned earlier. Sorry guys, but this is so the point. Now I've just checked our polling registration. I can see loads of you have joined, but there are a few of you out there that haven't. So I am watching you. So there's the address, there's the link if you want to sign up for the polling. And I'll leave this up for a few more minutes, but also now give you the opportunity to ask us questions if anyone's got some.
Brilliant, thanks Bev. So can we ask, if you've got any questions, if you could use the raise hand function, and then I'll call out your name and you can unmute yourself to ask the question. We have one in the chat actually, Bev. So
oh yes,
Rachel was asked, you mentioned the panel that meet regularly. Could you expand on the makeup of the panel?
So that's the Stakeholders advisory panel. So there's we have social workers who are in a variety of different teams up and down the country. So it's a national stakeholder group. We have representatives from Quorum, NSPCC, academia, CAMS, directors, ex-directors of social care, and representative from families. So we've got Family Matters there, independent social workers. So it's a broad range, and we're always looking to expand the range and diversity of our stakeholders so that we can get a really good sense and temperature check from more organisations. So I hope that answered that question. Any more questions?
Yeah, you just took the words out of my mouth, Bev. Nice, okay, we're on the same page. So anyone else got a question, if you pop your hand up, or you can type it in the chat and I'm happy to read it out for you. You might be feeling a little shy this afternoon, so I'm happy to do that also.
Please don't be shy. Please don't. We've got 2 young people on this call that are that really have shown us how to do it on screen. Oh, there's a hand up.
Absolutely, Bev. So Victor's taken notice of that call to someone to not be shy. So Victor, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question, please? Well, we don't seem able to hear you, Victor. So if you want to pop that in the chat, I'm happy to ask the question for you.
Yeah, and obviously put them in the chat if you don't want to ask them outright.
Just to say, there is a lot of feedback in the chat about how powerful the video was that you've shared with us today, which is really lovely to see. And also lots of messages from people saying how nice it is to hear some of the positive stories about social workers and the work that they undertake with children and young people. So that was nice to see, and I thought helpful to feed back to you as a group about the work that you've been doing.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I think that was one of our aims today, is that the people who listened to this presentation actually went away with a real feeling factor about a feel-good factor about being a social worker, because yeah, sometimes it's just nice to sit within the positivity and remember why we started doing the job that we do and why we're still here. So so good. I'm glad that that came across.
Just had some other questions pop up. Actually, 2 people have asked the same question. So Debbie and Louise have both asked, could they know a little more about how you decided which local authorities were involved in the project?
Yeah, I'm happy to. Yeah, I'm happy to answer that question. So we released a call for research partners publicly on our website last year. So it was a completely open call. Local authorities basically applied to take part in the project. And as I've mentioned, we have 8 local authorities in total who are indeed going on to launch the project with us. So yeah, it was basically the decision of the local authority to apply and then proceed on to participating.
Thank you for that. And there's just another question that's just popped up from Anita, who was just, sorry, I've just lost it. I've scrolled up and down, and then of course I've lost where I was. So bear with me a moment. I can't blame technology when I was the problem. Anita was wondering about the children and young people who are in the care system who have had multiple different social workers and the impact this can have on them and how they feel about social workers in general. So I don't know if any of you are able to answer that. Obviously, if you're not, then Leon, please go ahead.
I've had quite a few. Well, I've had 3 social workers. I had one for probably the first few years until I was about 10, 11 maybe. She was my original one. She was I can't remember. Well, I can remember, but it's a bit fuzzy than the other 2. She was nice. There was the care there and that, and then there was another one who took me till I had about 4 years till about 15. So the last one is the one I've had longest, and it's just seeing the different ways and the different personalities like around. I believe I've been quite lucky because all 3 of my social workers have been, you know, they've been all in it. They've been very, very dedicated, and they've been there for helping me. I think as I got older, I could start to see that more because there's more things going around me, like education, life, other things coming out. So the first 2, as much as I know I could help them, I can't talk as much about them. But I think it's seeing the different ways people attack the job. It was quite nice because it's like it shows it's such a personal thing. But then you also get to see the whole thing of, you know, it's a variety of people choosing to do this job. Obviously, I can be sounding quite biased because, and I know this because I've had a very positive experience. I know myself that this, like, going into care and going through care has probably been one of the best things that's happened to me. It's turned my life around. So I admit, yes, my story might be quite biased for the positive side, but I mean, that's just been my whole experience. It's been a positive thing for me. But having those 3 different people, it's showing that there's more than one way to help. Like, you can be really stubborn and just go for it. It's just a simple, like, my last 2 mainly, they'd email me every so often or just drop me a message like, how are you doing today? How are things okay? So even if it's just that dropping a message every little day, like, or every so often, it really shows that dedication. And sorry if that was a bit long-winded, but I hope I've kind of answered it.
No, that's great, Leon. And I was just going to chime in there as well, just from a research standpoint. Anita, I think this is a really interesting question and one that I've thought about as well. So in the literature, there is some survey data to suggest that young people who have multiple social workers potentially have poorer outcomes. And so that's not causal data though, so that's just kind of survey data. So I suppose that kind of feeds into one of our overall aims with this research program is to kind of improve the retention and reduce turnover of social workers in general, to ensure that kind of the incidence of clearly young people having lots of social workers over the course of them being involved with children's social care, that reduces. And yeah, so I think it's a really, really interesting question.
Yeah, and I just want to add, so we've all got an answer for this one. Just finally, that yeah, Leon's unusual in the fact that he's had 3 social workers, and it's been a positive experience with all 3. And quite a few of the young people we spoke to had multiple social workers. Alex, who's on this film, I think she'd had something like 6 in 2 weeks when she was talking about her experience. But what was really interesting was that although some of them had quite a lot of social workers, they were easily able to locate the one that was really good at their job. So it was quite nice that they weren't completely just impacted by lots of different social workers. They were able to pull apart and pick out the ones that were positive for them as well.
And we did have one more hands up. I don't know if Zoe is still with us. She may have had to go, but there was a hand up. If you're still with us, Zoe, you had a question?
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, so I'm a student social worker in my last year of my degree before I qualify. I'm still not 100% sure which way I'm going to be going, whether it's going to be children or adults. My passion has always been children, but I think sort of horror stories of safeguarding has put me off. So it's been really useful to hear sort of the positive experiences today. So yeah, I suppose my question is just advice really, or any sort of guidance that is going to reassure me that things are going to be okay if I was to pick children's, if that makes sense.
I'm going to jump in on this one. So Zoe, good luck in your last year. Wow, because it's hard work the last year. If you're passionate about children, then we need you. We need you in children's social care. So please come into children's social care. A lot of my experience has been in safeguarding, and I suppose if I was to say to you that in my last placement in my 3rd year, I joined a safeguarding team so that I could tick it off the list, because I definitely did not want to work in safeguarding because I felt it would be overwhelming. I wasn't sure if I would be able to do that job. So I was always aiming to be in a children looked after team. But actually, I went into the safeguarding team for my last placement, and I stayed there for 4 years. And some of the experiences with my families and my young people and children have stayed with me all this time. And I had a lot of fantastic, positive outcomes for those children and families that I work with. And you'll be in your ASYE year when you graduate. So you have a gentle step into children's social care, I hope. Don't always happen. Yeah, I definitely think you should be going to children's, but as far as picking what team you feel would be the best fit for you, You may have to try a few teams just to find out which one's best, but don't be put off by safeguarding because you think it's all really, really scary stuff. Actually, there's some of my best experiences with families has been in that team. Hope that helps.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Bev. I think we've probably just got time for one last question. So Louise, you've got your hand up if you'd like to ask your question, please.
Hi, I'm also a final year student. I've got a few weeks left, and I was going to join on the poll, but obviously until I'm registered, I can't join it. So it was just to kind of say that there's probably quite a few of us out there that wanted to join, but weren't able to. So, but I'll definitely join once I've registered.
Thank you, Louise. Yes, that's a really good point, isn't it? Around having to have a social work registration number for our sign up, but great that you're going to join once you've registered, and good luck for the next few weeks.
Thank you.
Okay.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, everybody, for joining the session this afternoon. As we've said, we had over 120 people on the call at one point. So it's a really brilliant turnout and a fabulous presentation we've had that's really provided us with some powerful insights into the subject area. And there's lots of praise for all of you in the chat. So I do hope that the four of you, in between presenting and the anxiety of, sharing your experiences, you have had a chance to take that in, because it's really well received, and I'm sure I speak for everyone on the call to say it's been a really enjoyable way to spend an hour of our time. So as I've said, we hope that you all, well, someone's just said best session of the week so far, so very high praise indeed. You've just made Bev very happy, Louise.
You have. I might keep this top and jacket on all day now in celebration.
So we hope that you have enjoyed today's session. As I've just said, clearly from the feedback we're getting in the chat, many of you have, which is great to see. Philippa did earlier pop a survey into the chat, and if you could take some time to fill that out, we would appreciate it, particularly to say how wonderful the session has been, if that's been the predominant theme through the chat. So it'd be great to have that feedback. And just a reminder, if you are a social worker, you can use today's session as a part of your CPD, perhaps to reflect about some of the issues that we've heard about and the things that we've discussed. But once again, thanks for joining in. You can share your thoughts about Social Work Week on Twitter, as we said earlier, the hashtag Social Work Week 2021. But I'll just say thank you to all of you that presented again, for sharing your stories with us and your time today. We look forward to being involved in the future, like you said, if we can join via the polling, and I know that you've put lots of helpful links for us in the chat. So on behalf of everyone on the call, thank you very much.
Thank you for your support, Social Work England. It's brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.